Greetings from the Book Whisper. Every story is a journey into a world of love, passion, deception, and self-discovery. Close your eyes, let the sounds carry you away, and may this story touch your heart. The Foundry. Part 1, The Silence in the Code. The summer heat in Pittsburgh was a historical artifact. It wasn't just weather, it was the lingering breath of the old Jones Loughlin furnaces, a thick, metallic blanket that settled over the three rivers and seeped into the brick bones of Lawrenceville. Liam McAllister felt it cling to his skin as he trudged up Butler Street, the weight of another failed iteration of the neural network heavier than the humidity. His world, as the lead researcher at Apex Dynamics, was one of pristine logic, of silicon certainty, clean rooms, and problems that, with enough processing power and elegant code, would eventually yield a solution. His home, a carefully renovated brick row house with a steel beam exposed in the living room, a nod to the city's industrial past he found poetic, was meant to be his sanctuary from algorithmic chaos. For 8 years, it had been. Now, it was the most complex and unsolvable equation in his life. The equation's name was Olivia. Once, she had been his vibrant antithesis. Where he was cool, analytical, and precise, she was all warm, tactile chaos, a ceramicist of startling talent. Her hands could coax ghosts and emotions from inert clay. Their love had been a perfect fusion, his structure, her soul. He'd designed the renovation plans, she'd filled the spaces with color, with strange, beautiful sculptures that looked like frozen music, and with the constant, earthy smell of wet clay from her basement studio. The studio was silent now, had been for over a year. The kiln was cold, the bags of clay were hardened in their sacks. The silence from below echoed the one that had settled between them in the rooms above. Disappointment was their unspoken language. Liam was disappointed that she'd let her gift, his word, atrophy into a hobby, hers, then into a memory. He'd funded her studio, bought the best Japanese wheels, the high-fire kiln. He saw it as an investment in genius. She came to see it as a debt she couldn't repay. "You built me a beautiful cage, Liam," she'd said once during a rare argument, her voice hollow, "but it's still a cage." She was disappointed that he spoke more to his experimental AI assistant, Ava, a soothing, synthetic female voice that managed his calendar and parsed data, than to her, that his eyes lit up for a successful simulation run in a way they hadn't for her in years. Their love hadn't exploded, it had undergone entropic decay, dissolving into a routine of polite questions and shared calendars. "How was your day?" she'd ask, staring at a recipe on her tablet. "Optimizing. The new clustering algorithm is promising." "You?" "I started a new piece." "Maybe." A lie, so thin it was transparent. "That's great," he'd say, a different kind of lie. He knew about the affair before he possessed a single fact. It was a change in the emotional data stream, an anomaly his subconscious flagged long before his conscious mind would accept it. It was in the new, unfamiliar perfume notes of jasmine and sandalwood, expensive and subtle. It was in the way her phone, once carelessly left on the couch, now lived screen down, a loyal soldier guarding its secrets. It was most of all in the rekindled light in her sea green eyes, a spark of vitality that had nothing to do with him, or their shared life. It was the spark of a self she'd thought lost. Liam, the man who taught machines to recognize patterns, chose, with a profound and deliberate cowardice, not to recognize this one. He buried the anomaly in a subfolder of his mind and lost himself in Project Chimera. Chimera was his masterpiece. 3 years in development, it was a machine learning algorithm designed not for speech or images, but for the abstract chaos of high-frequency financial markets. Its purpose was to find the hidden, fractal patterns in market noise, the fleeting inefficiencies a human could never see, and exploit them in microseconds. It was pure, beautiful logic applied to human irrationality. Apex Dynamics was weeks from a monumental buyout by a Wall Street firm, and Chimera was the crown jewel. One late night at the lab, sleep-deprived and debugging a stubborn error cascade, he made a mistake. He opened his home security app to check if he left the garage door open. A glitch, a temporal skip in the cloud feed, showed a different timestamp, 2:17 a.m., 2 Thursdays prior, a night he'd been in Cleveland for a conference. The video showed a car, a blue Subaru Outback with a distinctive roof rack, idling in front of his house for 47 minutes before pulling away. His blood didn't run hot, it turned to a cold, viscous slurry. He knew that car. Noah Bennett, Olivia's friend from Carnegie Mellon's art school, the one who'd almost been something but was now, according to Olivia's occasional updates, a surprisingly savvy gallery owner in the Strip District. Liam had met him a handful of times at openings, charismatic, with an easy laugh and hands that were always moving, telling stories in the air, hands that were the opposite of Liam's, which were made for keyboards and micro tools. The betrayal, confirmed, was not a sword through the heart. It was a catastrophic system failure, a core logic error in the architecture of his life. The rage that came was not fiery, it was absolute zero, a perfect, focused void. He closed the app. He didn't confront her. The scientist in him was now in full control, observing the corrupted experiment of his marriage. He began to gather data. It was shockingly easy. A dormant Instagram account he revived to follow Noah's gallery, the Bennett Collective. Posts showing openings, often tagged with local artists. Olivia was never in the photos, but her presence was in the timing. The nights she had book club, a club he'd never met any members of, coincided with gallery artist salons. The weekend she visited her sick aunt in Erie overlapped with a small contemporary art fair in Cleveland where Noah had a booth. He tracked license plate movements via city traffic cam archives. A security research side project gave him access. He cross-referenced credit card statements. They still had a joint account for household expenses, with charges at restaurants near the gallery on days he worked late. Each piece of data was a cold, hard stone. He was building a wall, and behind it, something else was being designed. Not a solution to save his marriage, but a proof of concept for its absolute, and reciprocal, destruction. Part 2, The Architect of Ruin. His work at Apex suffered, lines of code blurred. He missed a critical flaw in a simulation that cost the team a week of processing time. His lead engineer, Amelie Chen, cornered him in the quiet hum of the server room. "Liam, you're crashing." Her voice was low, direct, devoid of the gentle concern others might use. Amelie was brilliance incarnate, with a mind like a scalpel and a loyalty as fierce as it was unspoken. She was his intellectual equal, perhaps his superior in pure mathematics. There had always been a quiet, resonant frequency between them, a mutual understanding that needed few words. Now, her dark eyes held not just professional frustration, but a deep, personal worry. "Your error rate is 40% above baseline. You are not sleeping. You are not present. What is the variable?" He almost told her. The confession burned in his throat, but to speak it would be to make it real in a way the cold data was not. "Personal complications," he muttered, looking at the blinking LEDs of a server rack. "It's being handled." "By decomposing?" she shot back. "This," she gestured at the room, "at the project, is a delicate organism. Your instability is a pathogen. Fix it, or step back." Her words were harsh, but her hand, for a fleeting second, rested on his forearm, a jolt of human contact in his digital wasteland. There are other ways to solve problems than brute force self-destruction. Her touch, her words, were a key turning in a lock, but he turned it the wrong way. Other ways to solve problems. He wasn't trying to solve the problem of Olivia and Noah. He was trying to disprove it, to prove that the system Noah's world, the world that had stolen his wife's slide, was inherently flawed, corrupt, and fragile, and he had the perfect tool. Chimera. In the deepest, most encrypted directory of his home server, he began a new project, a fork of Chimera's core code. He repurposed it. Instead of feeding it stock tickers and forex data, he fed it a new dataset, decades of art auction results, gallery press releases, the social media feeds of critics and wealthy collectors, the sales history of the Bennett Collective. He taught it to recognize patterns there, which artists were hot, which were cooling, what kind of scandals the market could absorb, and what kind it destroyed. He called his shadow version Midas, but its touch was designed to turn things to rust, not gold. He needed a proxy. He reached out to an old MIT classmate, William Shore, now a ruthlessly efficient finance lawyer with a taste for gray area operations. Over encrypted chat, Liam laid out a hypothetical. William, who had never liked questions, understood money. A shell company, Patroclus Holdings, was established in Delaware. Seed money was transferred from an account Liam had kept separate from his marital assets, an inheritance from an uncle. Midas began its work. It identified stress points, Noah's gallery was stylish but not yet established. It relied heavily on a few anchor artists and one silent, deep-pocketed primary investor, Henry Forsyth, a reclusive tech billionaire from the North Hills with a passion for post-war abstract expressionism. Liam, through Patroclus, began to apply pressure. At an auction for emerging artists, he had Williams' assistant place aggressive, anonymous bids on two pieces Noah was reportedly banking on, inflating their prices to a point that scared off genuine buyers, then withdrawing at the last second. The pieces failed to sell, a minor loss, but a signal to the market. Next, Midas suggested a more psychological attack. Noah's star artist was a young, brooding sculptor named Matteo, who worked with reclaimed steel, a Pittsburgh darling. Midas, scraping art history databases and image recognition feeds, found an obscure Polish sculptor from the 1970s with a vaguely similar aesthetic. Liam, using his graphic design skills, honed making conference posters, created a series of found sketches, digitally aged them, and leaked them to a notorious, gossipy art blog run by a vicious critic named Evelyn. The post title, Inspiration or Appropriation? The Ghost in Matteo's Machine. The scandal was a pebble in a pond, but the ripples were perfect. Questions were raised. A small but influential collector in New York cancelled a planned six-figure purchase. Liam watched it all from his terminal at home, a general observing battlefield reports. He started drinking whiskey, neat. The taste of smoke and regret suited his new persona. At home, the performance reached Shakespearean levels of quiet anguish. Olivia, flush with the guilt and secret thrill of her double life, became almost tender. She'd make his favorite meal, Moroccan chicken, and ask about Chimera. She'd touch his shoulder while he worked, and he'd feel her guilt transmit through her fingertips like a low-voltage current. He played his part, the distracted, overworked genius, oblivious to the world crumbling around the man who was stealing his wife. "We should have people over," he suggested one evening, watching her jump at the sound of his voice. "Your art crowd, it's been a while." He saw the panic, then the quick calculation in her eyes. "Maybe Noah and some of his artists, I'd like to pick his brain. The gallery business is a fascinating market anomaly." The dinner party was a masterpiece of sustained tension. Noah arrived with a bottle of expensive Burgundy and a too familiar smile for Olivia. He brought Matteo, who was sullen and defensive, and Matteo's girlfriend, a sharp-eyed painter named Sophia. Liam played the gracious, slightly awkward host, steering conversation to market forces, the fragility of reputation, and the algorithmic predictability of taste. He asked Noah insightful, deadly questions about liquidity and investor patience. He saw the moment Noah's easy charm faltered, a crack in the facade. Olivia's gaze flickered between them, a silent plea to some unknown god. "It's a passion business, Liam," Noah said finally, a defensive edge in his voice. "Not everything can be quantified." "Oh, I disagree," Liam said softly, sipping his wine. "Passion has a financial signature, and debt is a wonderfully quantifiable thing." The room went very still. Olivia dropped a fork. The clatter was like a gunshot. Part 3, The Unraveling. The final stage was triggered by Midas. The algorithm, having modeled Henry Forsyth's investment history and risk tolerance, predicted he would abandon ship at a 17% projected quarterly loss combined with a reputational contamination event. Liam had created both. He composed the kill shot himself, a detailed, anonymized report, its prose cold and irrefutable, projecting the Bennett Collective's collapse. It cited the failed auctions, the Matteo scandal, implying deeper, undiscovered issues, and an analysis showing Noah's over-reliance on Forsyth's capital. It was sent from a burner server to Forsyth's notoriously risk-averse financial manager, a woman named, ironically, Evelyn as well. The call came to Olivia on a Tuesday afternoon. Liam was working from home, ostensibly. He was in his study, door open a crack, listening to the one-sided conversation from the kitchen. "Noah, slow down. What? Henry what? He can't just put the show next month." Her voice rose, cracked. "There's no other way? Oh, God." A long pause filled with muffled sobs. "I'm so sorry, I'll come over." He heard the phone clatter on the granite countertop, then silence, broken by a single, gut-wrenching sob that seemed to tear itself from her very core. He sat at his desk, hands flat on the wood, waiting. He felt nothing. The void was complete. An hour later, he heard the soft sounds of movement, drawers opening in the bedroom, the faint drag of a suitcase zipper. He didn't move. She appeared in his doorway, a ghost of the woman he'd married. Her eyes were swollen, her face pale. She held a small leather weekend bag. "I'm leaving, Liam." He swiveled his chair slowly to face her. "Okay." The simplicity of his response threw her. She braced for anger, for tears, for questions. I know you must have suspected, about Noah." A faint, terrible smile touched Liam's lips. It didn't reach his eyes, which were the flat, dark blue of a winter lake. "Suspected, Olivia? I knew the make, model, and license plate of his car. I knew the average duration of his visits was 42 minutes. I knew his gallery's quarterly operating costs down to the last dollar. I knew Henry Forsyth's risk threshold was 16.8%, and I pushed it to 17.2. Her face underwent a terrifying transformation. Grief was wiped away by confusion, then dawning, horrific comprehension. She took a step back, hitting the doorframe. "You what?" "I was busy," he said, his voice a monotone of perfect calm, "building something, a proof of concept." "The gallery," she whispered, the words barely forming. "The auctions, Matteo, that was you?" "The market can be cruel," he said, repeating his banal dinner party platitude, now exposed as a sadistic punchline. "I merely helped it find its target." Her breath came in short, sharp gasps. She looked at him as if seeing him for the first time, not her distracted, disappointing husband, but a chillingly alien creature, a strategist of ruin. The man who had loved her had been capable of coldness, but this was something else. This was a clinical extermination. Her betrayal had not broken his heart, it had short-circuited his humanity, and what had rebooted was this. "You ruined him," she said, her voice shaking with a new kind of terror. "No," he corrected, with the patience of a professor. His business model was non-viable, his reputation was a leveraged asset. "I didn't ruin him, I audited him. The findings were terminal." A sound escaped her, a mix of a sob and a retch. She turned and fled. He heard her footsteps on the stairs, the front door wrenching open, then the definitive, echoing slam. Silence, not the tense, waiting silence of before, but a total, vacuum-like silence. It pressed in on his eardrums. He had won. He had executed the most complex, ruthless project of his life with flawless, elegant precision. The corrupted variable was removed, the system was clean. He should have felt the cold satisfaction of a perfect solve, the triumph of logic over messy, human emotion. He felt nothing. The void wasn't just in his chest, it was in the house, in the city outside the window, in the universe. He had become the silence. He turned to his main terminal. The Midas interface was still open, charts and graphs mapping the collapse he'd engineered. It was his masterpiece, more brilliant in its way than Chimera, a work of devastating, malicious art. His fingers hovered over the keyboard. He thought of Amelie's hand on his arm in the server room. There are other ways to solve problems than brute force self-destruction. He thought of Olivia's face in the doorway, not angry, not guilty, but afraid of him. He had wanted to cause pain, but he had created something worse, a monument to his own monstrousness. With a few swift, decisive keystrokes, he initiated sudo rmrf on the entire Midas directory. Then, on the core Chimera project files, he entered his encryption key one last time, not to protect, but to authorize total annihilation. The screen flashed, progress bars eating through gigabytes of code, years of work, the weaponized core of his intellect, the Wall Street buyout, the fortune, the legacy, it all dissolved into binary dust. He sat in the darkening room as the computer finished its purge. The only light came from the city outside, the orange glow of streetlights on wet brick. Part 4, The Scorched Earth. The next morning, he was at the lab before dawn. The physical space felt alien, a museum of a life he'd incinerated. Amelie was already at her station, a cube of light in the dim room, her face illuminated by 3 monitors. She heard him approach but didn't turn. "You are here early, or very late." Her fingers never stopped moving across the keyboard. "I burned it down," he said, his voice rough from disuse and whiskey. She paused, turned. Her sharp eyes scanned his face, reading the data there, the hollows under his eyes, the set of his jaw, the absolute absence of anything behind his gaze. "The project, Chimera, everything. She studied him for a long, silent minute. The hum of the servers was the only sound. Then, she did something extraordinary. She reached not for a keyboard, but for a small electric kettle she kept at her desk. She poured hot water into 2 mugs, added tea bags Earl Grey for him. She remembered and pushed one across the desk toward him. "Sometimes," she said, her voice softer than he'd ever heard it, "the foundation is rotten, the code is too patched, too corrupted. You cannot debug it, you can only wipe the drive." She nodded at the mug. "Start with this, the rest is a new project, with different parameters." Liam took the mug. The heat was almost painful against his skin, a shocking, vivid sensation in his numb world. He looked past her, out the lab's high window. Pittsburgh lay before him in the gray morning light, the skeletal bridges, the rust-colored rivers, the old foundries standing like tombstone sentinels next to the sleek, glass-faced tech incubators. A city built on fire and force, now trying to build itself anew on code and capital. He had used both to destroy. The intricate, poisonous web was gone, Midas was dead, Chimera was dead, Olivia was gone. All that remained was the scorched earth of his own life and this quiet woman offering him tea, offering him a terrifying, blank slate. He had won his revenge and found it to be the most profound failure of all. The final, unexpected result of his experiment was this: he was free, he was alone, and the only intriguing problem left was the unimaginably difficult one of building a man from the ashes of a machine. The first line of that new code was the warmth of the mug in his hands, and the silent, steady gaze of the only person who had seen his crash and hadn't looked away. And just like that, another journey on the Book Whisper comes to an end. We hope it was worth your while. If this story found a place in your thoughts, help us keep the magic alive. Subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss the next world we explore. Your like is the best signal telling us which tales to tell more of. Thank you for listening. Until the next adventure.